to the Parable of the Vineyard Torah portion life study. My name is Adam, your host. We know that the Most High has called a people out of slumber into belief in His Son, Messiah YHWH, and to walk as He walked, obedient to the commandments. Join us as we study the Torah line by line so that we may fellowship together, grow, edify, train, and prepare the body of Messiah, the children of Israel, for the return of Messiah YHWH, to be with Him forevermore. O Yahuwah, open Thou mine eyes, that I may behold wondrous things out of Thy Torah. Shalom, brothers and sisters, and welcome to the Parable of the Vineyard Torah portion studies. This is week 10, Miketz, at the end. So, glad you can join me today to read some Torah. I think this is a perfect day to do so. Just with my schedule and everything, it just worked out. Last week, we read the Torah portion during a pagan holiday known as Christmas, and well, here we are again a week later on a Wednesday. During the pagan New Year's, according to the Gregorian calendar. So I think it's a blessing. I think it's a blessing for us to be able to study the Torah during these days, and I welcome you. So this is going to be through Genesis 41, verse 1 through 44, verse 17. And like always, what we do here, if you're just by chance dropping in and you've never watched this before, what we do here is we take the Torah portion, we read it line by line, and we compare it against what we read in books like Jasher, Jubilees, and other books as well. Hey, buddy. Okay, you want to come here for a second? You want to say hi? Because Daddy's live right now. You want to say hi? Come here.
Hi.
You say hi, everybody?
Yeah.
What's your name?
Then.
Daniel? Okay. Love you, buddy. Go see Mommy, okay? She'll help you. Apologize about that. Can you go see Mommy, please? Okay. Thank you, Daniel. Can you close the door, please? This is, I do these at my home, and this happens sometimes. I apologize. But that's Daniel. So, what we do is we take the Torah portion line by line, and we just compare it and get the full depth of understanding by cross-referencing it with books like Jubilees, Jasher, and if you do have questions about books like those, we've got tons of other videos that talk much more about that. So, any case, and also just to give you a heads up, if you're looking for a Torah scholar, I wouldn't consider myself a Torah scholar. I consider myself a Torah student. So I invite you to study the Torah with me line by line, and we can grow together. And this is a great place to, leave comments. And certainly I'm going to miss some things. And, so that's a great way for us to fill in all the holes and, just continue to study to show ourselves approved, as the Apostle Shaul said. So let's start with some prayer, and we're going to get right into it. Let's bow our hearts. Heavenly Father, Yahuwah, we just come before you in Yahusha's name, and we bless you. We thank you for the ability to gather like this all across your earth. Truly, we can't wait for the day we can all fellowship together in actual presence, but this is certainly great in the meantime. And we just bless you for opening our eyes, even to the relevancy of Torah in these last days. And opening our eyes, of course, most importantly, to the truth of your Son, your Word made flesh, Yahushua HaMashiach, which by His stripes we were healed, and by His blood we are cleansed. And we're just so grateful. So we just sing hallelujahs to you, and we bless you, and we thank you, and we just want to honor you as per how the Word says to do it. And as the scripture says, please open our eyes and ears to behold the wondrous things out of your Torah. Amen and amen. Okay, speaking about singing hallelujahs, I'm working on it. I'm working on getting back on the guitar. So maybe maybe one day maybe one day we'll have some singing and praise worship in here. But I think in the meantime, what we might do, I might start just doing this. Might just start playing some Alan Horvath songs at the end to conclude these things. But we'll talk about that later. So I don't want to delay anymore. Let's get right to the scriptures. I already spent 6 minutes saying hello, so here we go. We're going to start again at Genesis 41:1. But real quick, before we do so, I just want to show you, according to the scriptures, Exodus 12, actually specifically verse 2, this is actually when they came out of Egypt, and this was the first month. This was in springtime. This month shall be unto the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. So, unfortunately, yes, the Gregorian calendar is incorrect. The middle of winter is not the New Year's, but springtime actually is. And obviously, as you, if you don't understand that yet, meditate on that, take it to the Father, and let Him tell you what is truth and what is not. So Genesis 41:1. And it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh dreamed, and behold, he stood by the river, and behold, there came up out of the river 7 well-favored kine. Kine is like cows. Fat-fleshed, and they fed in a meadow. So these are good, healthy cows. And behold, 7 other kine came up after them out of the river, ill-favored and lean-fleshed, and stood by the other kine upon the brink of the river. And the ill-favored and lean-fleshed kine did eat up the 7 well-favored and fat kine. So Pharaoh awoke. And he slept and dreamed the second time. And behold, 7 ears of grain came up upon one stalk, rank and good. And you know what? I actually didn't check the chat to see if everything sounds okay. How's everything? Okay, looks good. So you've got the 7 good cows being eaten up by the 7 lean-fleshed cows, the ill-favored cows, and then here he's got another dream. Genesis 41:5, and he slept and dreamed the second time, and behold, 7 ears of grain came up upon one stalk, rank and good. And behold, 7 thin ears, and blasted with the east wind, sprung up after them. And the 7 thin ears devoured the 7 rank and full ears. And Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream. So you've got basically the same thing, but instead of cows, you've got grain coming up, and the same thing. So we're going to get the interpretation here in just a second, but I'm pretty sure most of you kind of already know the what's going on here. And let's see, where did I want to stop? No, okay, not yet. And it came to pass, Genesis 41:8, and it came to pass in the morning that his ruach, the spirit, was troubled, and he sent and called forth all the magicians of Mitzrayim, that's Egypt, and all the wise men thereof. And Pharaoh told them his dream, but there was none that could interpret them unto Pharaoh. Then spoke the chief butler unto Pharaoh, saying, I do remember my faults this day. And remember, Joseph had the butler promise him that when he's restored to Pharaoh, that he would tell Pharaoh about him and try to help him get out of there. But we did read in the book of, I think it was actually in Jubilees, that the Most High actually kept Joseph in prison longer because Joseph kind of relied on man to try to get him out of prison instead of just completely relying on the Most High. And I brought that back up again because that is so relevant to our lives. And I'm, again, when I talk about a lot of these things, I'm talking to myself too, because I never want you to think that I'm just trying to portray that I'm just some great guy that's doing it all right. Like I said at the beginning of this, I'm a student to the Word, and I'm a student to walking this out, just like you guys. So wanting to learn together as we do this. And so we've got to remember to trust and rely on the Most High for deliverance on everything. Everything. And it's easier said than done. I know, because, I'm in a situation now where I caught myself, last night, kind of just like, why me, poor me, blah, 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 just kind of like, almost like backbiting. And it's just something that I've got to personally work on. Anyways, so I don't want to get off topic, but we've got to remember to rely on the Most High at all times. This is probably the only thing I've seen in all the scriptures where Joseph kind of messed up a little bit, but I guess that kind of makes it to where Messiah, Yahusha, was truly the only perfect one. Joseph was a foreshadow of Messiah in many, many ways, and we talked a little bit about that last week. But anyways, so let's keep going. So the chief butler is like, whoops, I forgot about Joseph. Let me tell you about this. So Genesis 41:10, Pharaoh was wroth with his servants and put me in ward in the captain of the guard's house, both me and the chief baker. And we dreamed a dream in one night, I and he. We dreamed each man according to the interpretation of his dream. And there was with us a young man, an LBRY, Hebrew, servant to the captain of the guard, and we told him, and he interpreted to us our dreams. To each man according to his dream he did interpret. And it came to pass, as he interpreted to us, so it was. Me he restored to my office, and him he hanged. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon, and he shaved himself, and changed his raiment, and came in unto Pharaoh. So cleaned up pretty good, right? And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is none that can interpret it. And I have heard say of you, that you can understand a dream to interpret it. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, It is not in me. Elohim shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace. And there's another nugget of just something we've got to walk in and to embrace is at all times we must give the Most High all glory, all recognition at all times for everything, for especially our testimony, like our change, where we came from, where we are now, and who gets all that credit for doing so. It was him. And I could tell you right now, 100%, had he not given me favor and grace and mercy and long-suffering and pulled me up out of the pit that I was in, I'd be dead right now, physically dead. Not just spiritually dead, I'd be physically dead, and I would also be spiritually dead because I was not saved, I was not ready, I was a transgressor, beyond transgressors, and I'm just so thankful that he pulled me up out of that miry pit. And that's just a small example, our testimonies, but there's so many things that we can just give him the glory. So we just got to get used to this. And it's honestly, it's very freeing. It's very, to me, like in my mind and in the ruach, it's like, it reminds me of like either like buying something for yourself or buying a gift for somebody, or taking care of somebody. Like, do I spend, let's say I had $100, do I spend it on myself and, get the this and this, or do I take this $100 and go give it to someone in need? You inherently feel better, and your mind has a clearer conscience, if you will, maybe. I don't know if that conscience is the right word, but maybe you're getting what I'm saying. And this is very similar, in my opinion, that we are to give him glory in all things. So this isn't like a, I did this or I did that, or, I was just actually reading through the book of Acts this morning, and I can't remember who it was. Someone stood up, and all the people gave him glory. And was it Simon? No, I don't know. All the people gave him glory, and he didn't rebuke them and say, no. This all the esteem goes to the Most High, and he literally died right then and there. He was eaten up by worms, it said. So. Pretty good example of why we should give him the glory. We should want to do it. We shouldn't be like, I've got to give it to him. There was a verse I was reading the other day, and it was in Tehillim, Psalms, I believe it was 29. Yeah. Here, let's just read verses 1 through 2. Ascribe to Yahweh, this is Psalm 29. Ascribe to Yahweh, O you sons of the mighty. Ascribe to Yahweh esteem and strength. Ascribe to Yahweh the esteem of his name. Bow yourselves to Yahweh in the splendor of his set-apartness. So, again, ascribe the esteem, the glory to his name. Give it to him. It's his. He deserves it. But so we stopped at Genesis 41:16. Let's take a look at a snippet from the equivalent in Jasher. It's going to be Jasher 48:1. We're actually going to read through 49:30, so this is going to be kind of a long read, but there's some really interesting stuff that happens that we just don't get in the canon, but it all makes sense. Give me just a second. Okay. So, yeah, Jasher 48:1. Yeah, we'll just start at 2. And at that time, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, was sitting upon his throne in the land of Egypt, and lay in his bed and dreamed dreams. And Pharaoh saw in his dream that he was standing by the side of the river of Egypt. And whilst he was standing, he saw, and behold, 7 fat-fleshed and well-favored kine. You know what? We can skip through the actual dream. Here we go. And in the morning, the king remembered his dreams, and his spirit was sadly troubled on account of his dreams. And the king hastened and sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt and the wise men, and they came and stood before Pharaoh. And the king said unto them, I have dreamed dreams, and there is none to interpret them. And they said unto the king, Relate thy dreams to thy servants, and let us hear them. And the king related his dreams to them, and they all answered and said with one voice to the king, May the king live forever, and this is the interpretation of thy dreams. The 7 good kine which thou didst see denote 7 daughters that will be born unto thee in the latter days. And the 7 kine which thou sawest come up after them and swallowed them up, are for a sign that the daughters which will be born unto thee will all die in the lifetime of the king. And that which thou didst see in the second dream of 7 full good ears of corn coming up upon one stalk, this is their interpretation, that thou wilt build unto thyself in the latter days 7 cities throughout the land of Egypt, and that which thou sawest of the 7 blasted ears of corn springing up after them and swallowing them up whilst thou did behold them with thine eyes, it is a sign that the cities which thou build will all be destroyed in the latter days in the lifetime of the king. And when they spoke these words, the king did not incline his ear to their words, neither did he fix his heart upon them. For the king knew in his wisdom that they did not give a proper interpretation of the dreams. And when they had finished speaking before the king answered them, saying, What is this thing you have spoken unto me? Surely you have uttered falsehood and spoken lies. Therefore now give the proper interpretation of my dreams, that you may not die. And the king commanded after this, and he sent and called again for other wise men, and they came and stood before the king, and the king related his dreams to them. And they all answered him according to the first interpretation. And the king's anger was kindled, and he was very wroth. And the king said to them, Surely you speak lies and utter falsehood in what you have said. And the king commanded that a proclamation should be issued throughout the land of Egypt, saying, It is resolved by the king and his great men that any wise man who knoweth and understandeth the interpretation of dreams and will not come this day before the king shall die. And the man that will declare unto the king the proper interpretation of his dreams, there shall be given unto him all that he will require from the king. And all the wise men of the land of Egypt came before the king, together with all the magicians and sorcerers that were in Egypt and in Goshen, in Ramses, in Tahaphanes, in Zoar, and in all the places on the borders of Egypt, and they all stood before the king. And all the nobles and the princes and all the attendants belonging to the king came together from all the cities of Egypt. And they all sat before the king, and the king related his dreams before the wise men, and the princes and all that sat before the king were astonished at the vision. And all the wise men who were before the king were greatly divided in their interpretation of his dreams. Some of them interpreted them to the king, saying, The 7 good kine are 7 kings, who from the king's issue will be raised over Egypt. And the 7 bad kine are 7 princes, who will stand up against them in the latter days and destroy them. And the 7 ears of corn are 7 great princes belonging to Egypt, who will fall in the hands of the 7 less powerful princes of their enemies in the wars of our Lord the king. Excuse me. And some of them interpreted to the king in this manner, saying, The 7 good kine are strong cities of Egypt, and the 7 bad kine are the 7 nations of the land of Canaan, who will come against the 7 cities of Egypt in latter days and destroy them. And that which thou sawest in the second dream of 7 good and bad ears of corn is a sign that the government of Egypt will again return to thy seed as at first. And in his reign the people of the cities of Egypt will turn against the 7 cities of Canaan, who are stronger than they are, and will destroy them. And the government of Egypt will return to thy seed. And some of them said to the king, This is the interpretation of thy dreams. The 7 good kine are 7 queens, whom thou wilt take for wives in the latter days. And the 7 bad kine denote that those women will all die in the lifetime of the king. And the 7 good and bad ears of corn, which thou didst see in the second dream, are 14 children. And it will be in the latter days that they will stand up and fight amongst themselves, and 7 of them will smite the 7 that are more powerful. So you can see all these are just horrible interpretations. Let's just skip that. These are all just nonsense interpretations. Here we go. Verse 24. And the king heard all the words of the wise men of Egypt and their interpretation of his dreams, and none of them pleased the king. And the king knew in his wisdom that they did not altogether speak correctly in all these words. For this was from YHWH to frustrate the words of the wise men of Egypt, in order that Joseph might go forth from the house of confinement, and in order that he should become great in Egypt. And the king saw that none amongst all the wise men and magicians of Egypt spoke correctly to him. And the king's wrath was kindled, and his anger burned within him. And the king commanded that all the wise men and the magicians should go out from before him, and they all went out from before the king with shame and disgrace. And the king commanded that a proclamation be sent throughout Egypt to slay all the magicians that were in Egypt, and not one of them should be suffered to live. For some of you that know the book of Daniel, well, a lot of us already know that there's similarities to this story and the story of Daniel with interpreting the dreams of Nebuchadnezzar. But what we're going to find out here is it almost repeated almost exactly, which we didn't get in the Canaan in Genesis because, as we talked about it last week, if every single fact was included in Genesis, I mean, the book of Genesis would be, probably as long as the entire Torah, and that's just not how the Most High wanted it. So, like we learned in the book of 2 Esdras, chapter 14, that the Most High commanded a certain amount of books be made public and a certain amount of books be kept in private for those for the wise, and for those that want to observe Proverbs 25:2, to know that the Most High conceals matters, but it's the honor of kings to search them out. Well, here we are. We're searching them out, and we get all the facts. So, I hope this isn't boring to you guys. For me, this is fascinating. I love. I don't know if you guys, if any of you brothers and sisters have read the book of Enoch. Maybe some of you in here have done gone through the live study that Justin and I did with Enoch. But this is, well, yeah. I'll keep going. I don't want to go off on a huge tangent. Yeah, sorry. I don't want to go off because there's so much to read this week. I don't want to go off on huge rabbit holes because this will end up being way too long. But anyways, so long story short, this what we're about to read is almost exactly like the story of Daniel and Nebuchadnezzar, and you'll see, if some of you that know the story of Daniel pretty well, you'll see a lot of the same connections here. And what I meant to say about Enoch is just Enoch at one point was going through heaven. He was asking all these questions, and like, why are you asking all these questions? And why do you wish to know this? And he's like, I wish to know about everything, but especially this. So anyways, I also wish to know everything too. So, Jasher 48:29, and the captains of the guards belonging to the king rose up, and each man drew his sword, and they began to smite the magicians of the Egypt and the wise men. And after this, Murad, chief butler to the king, came and bowed down before the king and sat before him. And the butler said unto the king, May the king live forever, and his government be exalted in the land. Thou wast angry with thy servant in those days, now 2 years past, and didst place me in the ward, and I was for some time in the ward, and I and the chief of the bakers. And there was with us a Hebrew servant belonging to the captain of the guard. His name was Joseph, for his master had been angry with him and placed him in the house of confinement, and he attended us there. And in some time after, when we were in the ward, we dreamed dreams in one night. I and the chief of the bakers, we dreamed, each man according to his interpretation of the dream. And we came in the morning and told them to that servant, and he interpreted to us our dreams, to each man according to his dream did he correctly interpret. And it came to pass, as he interpreted to us, so was the event. There fell not to the ground any of his words. So he's basically saying that everything that Joseph said was correct. And now, therefore, my lord and king, do not slay the people of Egypt for naught. Behold, that slave is still confined in the house by the captain of the guard, his master, in the house of confinement. If it pleaseth the king, let him send for him, that he may come before thee, and he will make known to thee the correct interpretation of the dream which thou didst dream. And the king heard the words of the chief butler, and the king ordered that the wise men of Egypt should not be slain. And the king ordered his servant to bring Joseph before him, and the king said unto them, Go to him, and do not terrify him, lest he be confused, and and will not know to speak properly. So Pharaoh is like, go get Joseph, but don't be mean to him. Don't be rude to him. Don't terrify him, lest you get him all basically get him off his right mind so that he can't properly interpret this. So he's like, treat him good. And the servants of the king went to Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon. And the king's servants shaved him, and he changed his prison garment, and he came before the king. And the king was sitting upon his royal throne in a princely dress, girt around with a golden ephod, and the fine gold which was upon it sparkled, and the carbuncle, and the ruby, and the emerald, together with all the precious stones that were upon the king's head, dazzled the eye, and Joseph wondered greatly at the king. And the throne upon which the king sat was covered with gold and silver, and with onyx stones, and it had 70 steps. This will come up here in just a little bit. And it was their custom throughout the land of Egypt that every man who came to speak to the king, if he was a prince or one that was estimable in the sight of the king, estimable in the sight of the king, he ascended to the king's throne as far as the 31st step, and the king would descend to the 36th step and speak with him. This almost sounds like Masonic stuff, truly. Which no doubt, because Freemasonry, while people say it stems from the Temple of Solomon, I think it was way before then. I think it stemmed from the days of Egypt, but that's a whole nother story. Verse 45, if he was one of the common people, he ascended to the 3rd step, and the king would ascend to the 4th and speak to him. And their custom was, moreover, that any man who understood to speak in all 70 languages, he ascended the 70 steps and went up and spoke till he reached the king. And any man who could not complete the 70, he ascended as many steps as the language which he knew to speak in. And remember, these 70 languages are the 70 that came about from the dispersion of the Tower of Babel. And it was customary in those days in Egypt that no one should reign over them, but who understood to speak in the 70 languages. And when Joseph came before the king, he bowed down to the ground before the king, and he ascended to the 3rd step. And the king sat upon the 4th step and spoke with Joseph. And the king said unto Joseph, I dreamed a dream, and there is no interpreter to interpret it properly. And I commanded this day that all the magicians of Egypt and the wise men thereof should come before me, and I related my dreams to them, and no one has properly interpreted them to me. And after this, I this day heard concerning thee, that thou art a wise man, and canst correctly interpret every dream that thou hearest. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, let Pharaoh relate his dreams that he dreamed. Surely the interpretations belong to Elohim. There's that giving the glory to the Most High, the esteem to the Most High. And Pharaoh related his dreams to Joseph, the dream of the kine and the dream of the ears of corn, and the king left off speaking. And Joseph was then clothed with the spirit of Elohim before the king, and he knew all the things that would befall the king from that day forward. And he knew the proper interpretation of the king's dream, and he spoke before the king. And Joseph found favor in the sight of the king, and the king inclined his ears to his heart, and he heard all the words of Joseph. And Joseph said unto the king, do not imagine that they are 2 dreams, for it is only one dream. For that which Elohim has chosen to do throughout the land, he has shown to the king in his dream, and this is the proper interpretation of thy dream. Let's stop there, because actually, let's read the Genesis portion first. Genesis 41:17. And Pharaoh said unto Elioseph, in my dream, behold, I stood upon the bank of the river, and behold, there came up out of the river 7 kine, flat-fleshed and well-favored, and they fed in a meadow. And behold, 7 other kine came up after them, poor and very ill-favored, and lean-fleshed, such as I never saw in all the land of Mizraim for badness. And the lean and ill-favored kine did eat up the first 7 fat kine. And when they had eaten them up, it could not be known that they had eaten them, but they were still ill-favored as at the beginning. So I awoke. And I saw in my dream, and behold, 7 ears came up in one stalk, full and good. And behold, 7 ears withered thin, and blasted with the east wind sprung up after them. And the thin ears devoured the 7 good ears. And I told this unto the magicians, but there was none that could declare it unto me. And Joseph said unto Pharaoh, the dream of Pharaoh is one. Elohim has showed Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good kine are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years. The dream is one. And the 7 thin and ill-favored kind that came up after them are 7 years. And the 7 empty ears blasted with the east wind shall be 7 years of famine. This is the thing which I have spoken unto Pharaoh. What Elohim is about to do, he shows unto Pharaoh. Behold, there comes 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Mitzrayim. And there shall arise after them 7 years of famine, and all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Mitzrayim, and the famine shall consume the land. And then plenty shall not be known in the land by reason of that famine following, for it shall be very grievous. And for that dream, and for that the dream was doubled unto Pharaoh twice, it is because the thing is established by Elohim, and Elohim will shortly bring it to pass. Now therefore, let Pharaoh look out a man discreet and wise, and set him over the land of Mitzrayim. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land, and take up the 5th part of the land of Mitzrayim in the 7 plenteous years, and let them gather all the food of those good years that come, and lay up grain under the hand of Pharaoh, and let them guard food in the cities. And that food shall be for the store to the land of Mitzrayim, the 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Mitzrayim, that the land perish not through the famine. So, what are we talking about here? Well, again, 7 good years of plenty, where there's plenty of grain and plenty of everything, and 7 bad years. And basically, the dream is to, to let them know that it's time to prepare, to preppers. And this is a very common passage that people go to justify prepping. And I think to a certain extent, I think we should be prepared. We are living in the last days, and we know that these are crazy times. Who knows? Who knows exactly how this works out? Who knows if we have to go through some really rough years and survive? Who knows if we don't have to flee to the wilderness? I don't know exactly how this works out. Anybody that says they have everything figured out, how it works, the tribulation, when everything happens, it's not there. So I think it's a great idea to have extra food and water and storage. This is, I'll never turn into one of those ministries that'll sell you buckets of food and and try to scare you to death to buy my products so that you're prepared. But I'm just saying, I think any wise person would recognize the times we're living in, and to know that this falsehood of this economy and everything could just be gone in just a second. And this isn't, I'm not saying these things to scare you guys, but man, I really do think it's a good idea to prep. Do I think that should be your main mode of prepping? No, I think spiritual preparation is the most important, because our actions and what we do and keeping the commandments and keeping the faith and judgment and mercy, all these things, love, these are the weighty matters of prepping. But truly, I don't think there's anything wrong with prepping and having a little extra in case something happens. So just my 2 cents. Some people might rebuke me and say, "Hey," and this is a fair point. I will say that someone could easily say, or I could even say, don't prep at all, and know that the Most High could drop manna in our backyard if He wanted to. He could. I agree. I completely agree. Maybe a little bit of both. Maybe there's nothing wrong with having a little extra food and water sitting around, and but in the thick of things, we've got to trust the Most High. We can't, rely on our physical provisions and those kind of things. But anyways, not to get too far into it, I did want to mention it because it's something that I get asked a lot is, should I prep and those kind of things. So I just wanted to bring that up. But so this is what we see here. And so let's read the Jasher portion, and let's not double read. Okay. So he's saying, this is verse 57. Now therefore I will give thee counsel and deliver thy soul and all the souls of the inhabitants of the land from the evil of the famine, that thou seek throughout thy kingdom for a man very discreet and wise, who knoweth all the affairs of government, and appoint him to superintend over the land of Egypt. And let the man whom thou placest over Egypt appoint officers under him, that they gather in all the food of the good years that are coming, and let them lay up corn and deposit it in the appointed stores. And let them keep that food for the 7 years of famine, that it may be found for thee and thy people and thy whole land, and that thou and thy land be not cut off by the famine. Let all the inhabitants of the land be also ordered that they gather in, every man the produce of his field, of all sorts of food during the 7 good years, and that they place in it their stores, that it may be found for them in the days of the famine, and that they may live upon it. This is the proper interpretation of thy dream, and this is the counsel given to save thy soul and the souls of all thy subjects. And here, actually, this is interesting. How much longer? Yeah, we just got a couple more verses. And the king answered and said unto Joseph, Who saith and who knoweth that thy words are correct? And he said unto the king, This shall be a sign for thee respecting all my words, that they are true, and that my advice is good for thee. Behold, thy wife sitteth this day upon the stool of delivery, and she will bear thee a son, and thou wilt rejoice with him when thy child shall have gone forth from his mother's womb. Thy firstborn son that has been born these 2 years back shall die, and thou wilt be comforted in the child that will be born unto thee this day. So, like a prophet, he's giving him a prophecy to test whether his words are true or not, much like the Deuteronomy 13 test. And Joseph finished speaking these words to the king, and he bowed down to the king, and he went out. And when Joseph had gone out from the king's presence, those signs which Joseph had spoken unto the king came to pass on that day. And the queen bare a son on that day, and the king heard the glad tidings about his son, and he rejoiced. And when the reporter had gone forth from the king's presence, the king's servants found the firstborn son of the king fallen dead upon the ground. And there was a great lamentation and a noise in the king's house. And the king heard it, and he said, What is the noise and lamentation that I have heard in the house? And they told the king that his firstborn son had died. Then the king knew that all Joseph's words that he had spoken were correct. And the king was consoled for his son by the child that was born to him on that day, as Joseph had spoken. So, interesting, right? Let's, and for whatever reason, it just wasn't included in the Canaan. That's just how the Most High wanted it. Let's just keep going. Genesis 41:37. And the thing was good in the eyes of Pharaoh, and in the eyes of all his servants. And Pharaoh said unto his servants, Can we find such a one as this, a man in whom the Ruach Elohim is? And Pharaoh said unto Yosef, For as much as Elohim has showed you all this, there is none so discreet and wise as you are. And ye shall be over my house, and according to your words shall all my people be ruled. Only in the throne will I be greater than you. So he was second. He was second to Pharaoh, very similar to Daniel and Nebuchadnezzar, right? And Pharaoh said unto Yosef, See, I have set you over all the land of Mitzrayim. And Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand, and put it upon Joseph's hand, and arrayed him in vestures of fine linen, and put a gold chain about his neck. Nebuchadnezzar said the same thing, right? And he made him to ride in the second chariot which he had, and they cried before him, Bow the knee! And he made him ruler over all the land of Mitzrayim. And Pharaoh said unto Yosef, I am Pharaoh, and without you shall no man lift up his hand or his foot in all the land of Mitzrayim. And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Sophanath Paneach, and he gave him to be his woman Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, not Potiphar, but Potipharah, priest of On, or Heliopolis in other translations. And Joseph went out over all the land of Mitzrayim. And Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Mitzrayim. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh, and went throughout all the land of Mitzrayim. And the 7 plenteous years the earth brought forth by handfuls. And he gathered up all the food of the 7 years which were in the land of Mitzrayim, and laid up the food in the cities. The food of the field, which was round about every city, laid he up in the same. And Joseph gathered grain as the sand of the sea, very much until he left numbering, for it was without number. So just a ton. And unto Joseph were born 2 sons before the years of the famine came, which Asenath, the daughter of Potipharah, priest of On, bore unto him. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for Elohim, said he, had made me forget all my toil and all my father's house. And the name of the second called he Ephraim, for Elohim has caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. This is important to us. This is actually pretty spot on to what's going on here right now. Some of you may follow the work of Rob Skiba. I would look into searching the Ephraim, or some say Ephraim Awakening. Just type in Ephraim Awakening and listen to what Rob's got to say and test it by the word. But a lot of people do believe that those of us living in this land of, let's call it Northern America, are Ephraim. Now listen, for Elohim has caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. So while on the surface we have it good here, think about all the things that we've been shown. Everything from all the lies that schools teach, the lies about the medical industry, vaccines and medicine, pharmacia, medicines, what they do to our body. Think about what they do to our food, and they're poisoning us, and they're spraying overhead. We're having a different kind of persecution here in America than what you see in India or China. These people are literally being killed for their faith. We're not being literally killed for our faith. But hold on a second. Before you just say, we're just a bunch of pansies and we've got no kind of persecution, let's not forget everything that we learned over the last couple of years, or maybe for some of you, last couple of weeks or last couple of months. But the list goes on of everything in this country, let alone the tax rate. I mean, back in the biblical time, the tithing was 10%. I think the average tax rate is like, what, 35 to 45%? I mean, we're almost talking about them taking half of our stuff. That's rape and pillage. But nobody bats an eye because we've been born into this. This is normal for us. Just like the children of Israel that grew up in Egypt before Moses came by the grace of YHWH and took them out of bondage, slavery. So, and also thinking about those that he's waking up in these last days to keeping his commandments alongside of our faith in Messiah Yahusha, because that always comes first. Listen, don't let me ever fool you. Don't let me ever think that I'm saying something else. Listen, this all stems from belief in Messiah, and even then, we can't even have a true belief in him except the Father draw us unto Messiah Yahusha. That came straight out of Messiah's words. But those of us that he's waking up, giving us new eyes and ears, and we've been walking out our faith the way he's calling us to, we're doing our best. A lot of people, ridicule us. You'll follow part of the Torah, but you're not stoning people. You're not burning witches. So, you guys are a bunch of hypocrites. I think we're in a place where it's like, do we just say, oh, we can't do this and this, so throw it all away? I don't think so. We're in a place where we're like, hey, what can we keep? Let's do it. And I think that's where we find ourselves. But another side of persecution is a lot of us are finding ourselves being kind of shunned by family. Some of us, even in our own homes, our spouses think that we're nuts and we're crazy, and they want nothing to do with us. People are getting divorced left and right. People's spouses are leaving them. Why? Because they want to do Shabbat and they want to eat clean now, and they don't want their children to watch Disney and all this other garbage. Don't tell me we're not suffering any persecution, and we may not have our heads being cut off yet. Okay, but there is a level of it. It's just a different type than what's happening in India and China and all these other things. And I'm not being insensitive. I mean, that's just some crazy stuff going on out there, and we should certainly be praying for all these countries, where this persecution's happening. Some of you know that we've been that we're building a church. Which, by the way, join me Friday night for the live stream, and I'm going to show you guys pictures. The land was purchased in Pakistan. The basement was dug. The concrete foundation was already poured. But in a country like that is 90% Muslim. You don't think they get ridiculed and mocked and all kinds of stuff? So we certainly should be praying for them and having compassion in our hearts, and our bowels should be poured out for them. But that kind of stuff is happening here. So I say all that to say this. So Ephraim, What's his name mean? For Elohim has caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. What is fruitful? The best definition you can find is in Psalm Techelim 1. Here's your biblical definition of fruit. Blessed is the man who shall not walk in the counsel of the wrong, and shall not stand in the path of sinners. And we know by 1 John 3:4 that sin is transgression of the Torah. And shall not sit in the seat of scoffers, but his delight is in the Torah of YHWH, and he meditates in his Torah day and night. So the person that does this, for he shall be as a tree planted by the rivers of water that yields its fruit in its season. That's being fruitful. And whose leaf does not wither, and whatever he does prospers. Fruitful. So, let's go back. For Elohim has caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. Here we are, in a modern-day Egypt, one of the daughters of Babylon. And, we have affliction in this country. People will say that we're cream puffs and we don't know, we don't know any kind of persecution. It's a different kind. It's a spiritual persecution. Needing into politics and the government and, just all that kind of stuff. But here we are, Ephraim, being fruitful in the land of our affliction. So that was an interesting rabbit hole. But I don't know. What do you think? Maybe that's a stretch, but what do you think? I'd love to see your comments in the comments later on. Excuse me just a moment. Okay. So Genesis 41:53, and the 7 years of plenteousness that was in the land of Mitzrayim were ended. Actually, let's just we'll stop there, and let's go to Jasher 49. Okay, so here's after the interpretation, the king's like, okay, the interpretation is good. Seek now, and this is Jasher 49, starting at verse 4. Seek now and see whether the like can be found, in whose heart there is wisdom and knowledge, and I will appoint him over the land. For ye have heard what the Hebrew man has advised concerning this, to save the land therewith from the famine. And I know that the land will not be delivered from the famine, but with the advice of the Hebrew man, him that advised me. And they all answered the king and said, the counsel which the Hebrew has given concerning this is good. Now therefore, our Lord and King, behold, the whole land is in thy hand. Do that which seemeth good in thy sight. Him who thou chooses, and whom thou in thy wisdom knowest to be wise and capable of delivering the land with his wisdom, him shall the king appoint to be under him over the land. And the king said to all the officers, I have thought that since Elohim has made known to the Hebrew man all that he has spoken, there is none so discreet and wise in the whole land as he. If it seem good in your sight, I will place him over the land, for he will save the land with his wisdom. And all the officers answered the king and said, but surely it is written in the laws of Egypt, and it should not be violated, that no man shall reign over Egypt, nor be the second to the king, but one who has knowledge in all the languages of the sons of men. We read this about the 70 steps and the 70 languages. Now therefore, our Lord and King, behold, this Hebrew man can only speak the Hebrew language. And how then can he be over us, the second under government, a man who not even knoweth our language? Now we pray thee, send for him, and let him come before thee, and prove him in all things, and do as thou see fit. And the king said, it shall be done tomorrow. And the thing that you have spoken is good. And all the officers came on that day before the king. And on that night YHWH sent one of his ministering angels, and he came into the land of Egypt unto Joseph. And the angel of YHWH stood over Joseph, and behold, Joseph was lying in the bed at night in his master's house in the dungeon, for his master had put him back in the dungeon on account of his wife. So again, very similar to Daniel, Daniel gets a visit and gets the interpretation. So actually, wait, I think I'm mixing a different interpretation. You know what? Did it just come to Daniel, or did he get a visit from the angel? Let me get a quick skim. Oh, okay. So, okay, then was the secret revealed unto Daniel in a night vision. Okay, yeah. So I was mixing the appearance of Gabriel to him, which was in Daniel 9. So I'm glad I corrected myself. Don't want to lead you guys astray on anything. Every detail matters. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I got a little congestion. Okay. And the angel roused him from his sleep, and Yosef rose up and stood upon his legs. And behold, the angel of Yahweh was standing opposite to him. And the angel of Yahweh spoke with Joseph, and he taught him all the languages of man in that night. And he called his name Yehoseph. Here you got another patriarch, right? Getting their name changed. Yehoseph. You know, I should look into what, I wonder if this has a different meaning than Yosef. Yehoseph. No, okay, it's not available. We'll look that up another time. And the angel of Yahweh went from him, and Yosef returned and lay upon his bed. And Yosef was astonished at the vision which he saw. Well, okay, you know, he's likening the angel of Yahweh coming to him, which, like as always, I believe, this may be Gabriel. This could be, who knows. But he called this a vision in Daniel. It was called a night vision, so maybe it was the same. And it came to pass in the morning that the king sent for all his officers and servants, and they all came and sat before the king. And the king ordered Joseph to be brought. And the king's servants went and brought Joseph before Pharaoh. And the king came forth and ascended the steps of the throne. And Joseph spoke unto the king in all the languages. And Joseph went up to him and spoke unto the king until he arrived before the king in the 70th step. Wow, awesome, right? And he sat before the king, and the king greatly rejoiced on account of Joseph. And all the king's officers rejoiced greatly with the king when they heard all the words of Joseph. So I didn't get the sense that any of these wise men or whatever or his counselors were like, no, don't make him second to you because he's a Hebrew, he's not one of us, but simply because it was, hey, let's not break one of the rules of Egypt, which is they've got to speak all the 70 languages, and here you are. And the king was like, he's probably like, I want Joseph, but hey, you're right. So here we go. And the Most High delivered and gave Joseph wisdom. And the thing seemed good in the sight of the king and the officers to appoint Joseph to be second to the king over the whole land of Egypt. And the king spoke to Joseph, saying, Now thou didst give me counsel to appoint a wise man over the land of Egypt, in order with his wisdom to save the land from the famine. Now therefore, since Elohim has made all this known to thee, and all the words which thou hast spoken, there is not throughout the land a discreet and wise man like unto thee. And thy name shall no more be called Joseph, but Zaphanath Paneah. So same thing we saw in Genesis. Shall be thy name. Thou shalt be second to me, and according to thy word shall be all the affairs of my government. And at thy word shall my people go out and come in. Also from under thy hand shall my servants and officers receive their salary, which is given to them monthly, and to thee shall all the people of the land bow down. Only in my throne will I be greater than thou. And as we continue to read through this portion in Jasher, Jubilees, and of course, the Torah in Genesis, we're going to see just multiple fulfillments of Joseph's dreams back when he was still with his father and with his brothers. He had the two dreams, one about the all the sheaves of wheat, I think it was, that were all bowing down to his sheaf of wheat. And then the second dream, which was the sun, moon, and the 11 stars bowing down to him. So you're starting to see everybody bowing down to Joseph. And here's a man that trusted in the Most High. Other than that little teeny thing that we saw last week, which was, again, just that he tried to get the butler to put a good word in Pharaoh's ear to get him out of prison. Other than that, he trusted in the Most High for everything. And you see what he did. He took him from down the dungeon, the pit, to being, being the ruler of Egypt. So from rags to riches, So he says, and all the people shall bow down. Only in my throne will I be greater than thou. And the king took off his ring from his hand and put it on the hand of Yosef. And the king dressed Yosef in a princely garment, and he put on a golden crown upon his head, and he go to put a golden chain upon his neck. And the king commanded his servants, and they made him ride in the second chariot belonging to the king that went opposite to the king's chariot. And he caused him to ride upon the great and strong horse from the king's horses, and to be conducted through the streets of the land of Egypt. And the king commanded that all those that played upon timbrels and harps and other musical instruments should go forth with Yosef. 1,000 timbrels, 1,000 mecholoth. I don't know what that is. Okay. An instrument. Okay, it's just a wind instrument. Okay. And 1,000 Nabalim went after him. We'll just keep going. And 5,000 men with drawn swords glittering in their hands, and they went marching and playing before Yosef. And 20,000 of the great men of the king, girt with girdles of skin covered with gold, marched at the right hand of Yosef, and 20,000 at his left. And all the women and damsels went upon the roofs or stood in the streets playing and rejoicing at Yosef, and gazed at the appearance of Yosef and at his beauty. And the king's people went before him and behind him, perfuming the road with frankincense and with cassia, and with all sorts of fine perfume, and scattered myrrh and aloes along the road. And 20 men proclaimed these words before him throughout the land in a loud voice. Do you see this man, whom the king has chosen to be his second? All the affairs of government shall be regulated by him, and he that transgresses his orders, or that does not bow down before him to the ground, shall die, for he rebels against the king and his second. And when the heralds had ceased proclaiming, all the people of Egypt bowed down to the ground before Yosef and said, May the king live, also may his second live. And all the inhabitants of Egypt bowed down along the road. And when the heralds approached them, they bowed down, and they rejoiced with all sorts of timbrels, Mechol and Nebal, before Yosef. Sorry if I'm getting a little choked up here. I'm just so excited for Yosef. You know, he was so wrongly persecuted, and he was so transgressed against. And here you see the Most High giving him mercy and judgment because of his faith and his trust in the Most High. So a beautiful, beautiful story. There's not too many better than the story of Joseph, honestly. And that's honestly why I really want to take a lot of time reading through all this extra meat that we get here in Jasher. I mean, this is exciting to me, you know? Like thousands of people, you know, doing homage and all this stuff, and just, man, just so happy for him. And Yosef upon his horse lifted up his eyes to heaven and called out and said, He raiseth the poor man from the dust. There you go. You know, see? Look at this. With all this going on, you know, Yosef could be like, you know, I'm like a king now. You know, I'm this, I'm that, or whatever. So after all this, what does Yosef say? This is, he's such a great example. He raiseth the poor man from the dust. He lifteth up the needy from the dunghill. Right? That's what I was telling you guys about me and a lot of us at the beginning of this outset. A lot of us were in, like the prodigal son, you know, in swimming around with the pigs in the mire, you know. Oh, YHWH Sebaoth, happy is the man who trusteth in thee. Amen. I agree, Yosef. I agree. So, exciting stuff. Let's see. Okay, so Genesis, back to Torah. Genesis 41:54. And the 7 years of famine began to come, according as Yosef had said, and the famine was in all lands. But in all the land of Mitzrayim there was bread. And when all the land of Mitzrayim was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. And Pharaoh said unto all the Mitzrayim, Go unto El Yosef. What he says to you, do. And the famine was over all the face of the earth, and Yosef opened all the storehouses and sold unto the Mitzrayim, and the famine waxed sore in the land of Mitzrayim. And all the countries came into Mitzrayim to El Yosef to buy for grain, because that famine was so sore in all the lands. So you can just see how all this was planned by the Most High to test and try Yosef, and because Yosef could have transgressed, and maybe we would have had a different outcome, but we know that the Most High knew the end from the beginning, so he knew this is exactly how it was going to turn out. He knew that Yosef was perfect, nearly perfect, right? So, Anyways, let's go to. So yeah, took me about an hour for one chapter, but hey, these things I think are important, and I pray that they are a blessing to you. Let me just check the chat, and yeah, it looks everything's still going good. Okay, what's going on, Aaron James, Sister Camilla, Eric Paget, Code Searcher, David Shearer? What is going on, Eric? Dave, Debbie, and Kaylee. Good to see you. Good to see you all. Amber. Awesome. Okay, let's keep going. All right, let me take a quick sip, and let's keep going. All right, so now we're at Genesis 42:1. Now when Yaakov saw that there was grain in Mitzrayim, Yaakov said unto his sons, "Why do you look one upon another?" He's like, "Why are you just idle and not, fixing this situation?" And he said, "Behold, I have heard that there is grain in Mitzrayim. Get you down thither and buy for us from thence, that we may live and not die." And Joseph's 10 brethren went down to buy grain in Mitzrayim. But Benjamin, Joseph's brother, Yaakov sent not with his brethren, for he said, lest perchance mischief befall him. And the sons of Yisrael came to buy grain amongst those that came, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. And Joseph was the governor over the land, and he it was that sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brethren came and bowed down themselves before him with their faces to the earth. So again, here you go. Here's another fulfillment. This is specifically the fulfillment because Jacob, he properly interpreted it and said, am I and your brothers, my mother, your mother and your brothers going to bow down before you? Mm-hmm. And Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them, but made himself strange unto them, and he spoke roughly unto them. And he said unto them, Whence come ye? And they said, From the land of Canaan, to buy food. And Joseph knew his brethren, but they knew him not. And Joseph remembered the dreams which he dreamed of them, and said unto them, Ye are spies. To see the nakedness of the land ye are come. And they said unto him, Nay, my lord, but to buy food are your servants come. We are all one man's sons. We are true men. Your servants are no spies. And he said unto them, Nay, but to see the nakedness of the land ye are come. And they said, Your servants are 12 brethren, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. And behold, the youngest is this day with our father, and one is not. And Joseph said unto them, That is it that I spoke unto you, saying, Ye are spies. Hereby ye shall be proved. By the life of Pharaoh, ye shall not go forth hence, except your youngest brother come hither. So he's like, ain't nothing happening. That was really bad English. Nothing's happening until your brother comes. Send one of you, and let him fetch your brother, and ye shall be kept in prison, that your words may be proved, whether there be any truth in you, or else by the life of Pharaoh surely ye are spies. And he put them all together into ward 3 days. And Joseph said unto them the 3rd day, This do, and live, for I fear Elohim. If ye be true men, let one of your brethren be bound in the house of your prison. Go ye, carry grain for the famine of your houses. If you can hear my babies crying and stuff, I'm sorry. They're having lunch right outside my garage door, so I apologize. This is my my office, my study in the garage. So if you be true men, let one of your brethren be bound in the house of your prison. Go ye, carry grain for the famine of your houses. But bring your youngest brother unto me, so shall your words be verified, and ye shall not die. And they did so. And they said one to another, We are truly guilty concerning our brother, in that we saw the anguish of his soul, when he besought us, and we would not hear. Therefore is this distress come upon us. Right? So now they're starting to realize why this is happening. And Reuben answered them, saying, Spoke I not unto you, saying, Do not sin against the child, and ye would not hear? Therefore, behold, also his blood is required. And they knew not that Joseph understood them, for he spoke unto them by an interpreter. And he turned himself about from them, and wept, and returned to them again, and communed with them, and took from them Shimon, and bound him before their eyes. Joseph, man, has so many good qualities, He's tenderhearted. Joseph, he could be hardened in heart, and he could be like, you horrible people, you threw me in a pit and wanted me to die, And then as a, consolation, I got sold into slavery. He could be angry at him for the rest of his life. I think anybody could do that, right? It takes a true person that is a follower of the Most High and truly fears the Most High and has the Ruach within him to be able to have pity and still love even in the face of all this. And that's what Messiah said, right? He's like, what thank have you if you love those that love you? Anybody, the publicans do this. Anybody can do that. Love your enemies. Love those that persecute. Love those that do evil to you, so that you be children of your Father. And here again, Yosef is a perfect example for us. Look at it, he's crying. He's crying. And, this is maybe also for those of you that like to poke fun at me for weeping sometimes at these scriptures. I'm not saying that I'm a good guy or I'm righteous or anything. I'm just saying, don't poke fun at me for weeping sometimes if, this amazing man did the same thing, right? With different circumstances, but, people were questioning my manhood and all that kind of stuff. Like, tired of hearing you cry, when you read the scriptures. Like, sorry, I don't know what to tell you. Don't know what to tell you. So, any case, Genesis 42:25. Then Yosef commanded to fill their sacks with grain, and to restore every man's money into his sack, and to give them provision for the way. And thus did he unto them. And they laded their asses with the grain, and departed thence. And as one of them opened his sack to give his ass provender in the inn, he espied his money. So he saw his money, for behold, it was in his sack's mouth. And he's like, oh. And he said unto his brethren, my money is restored, and lo, it is even in my sack. And their heart failed them, and they were afraid, saying one to another, what is this that Elohim has done unto us? And they came unto Yaakov their father unto the land of Canaan, and told him all that befell unto them, saying, the man who is the Lord of the land spoke roughly to us, and took us for spies of the country. I'm sorry, I got it. It's here. So sorry. That's why I keep... sorry. It's like when you have a cold, it's like sometimes it just itches. I'm sorry. And we said unto him, we are true men. We are no spies. We be 12 brethren, sons of our father. One is not, and the youngest is this day with our father in the land of Canaan. And the man, the Lord of the country, said unto us, hereby shall I know that ye are true men. Leave one of your brethren here with me, and take food for the famine of your households, and be gone. And bring your youngest brother unto me, then I shall know ye are no spies, but ye are true men. So will I deliver you your brother, and ye shall traffic in the land. So do business. And it came to pass, as they emptied their sacks, that behold, every man's bundle of money was in his sack. When both they and their father saw the bundles of money, they were afraid. And Yaakov their father said unto them, May have ye bereaved of my children. Yosef is not, so Yosef is dead, and Shimon is not, or Yosef is not here, Shimon is not, and ye will take Binyamin away? All these things are against me. And Reuben spoke unto his father, saying, slay my 2 sons if I bring him not to you. Deliver him into my hand, and I will bring him to you again. And he said, my son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he is left alone. If mischief befall him by the way in the which ye go, then shall ye bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to Sheol. So, let's, so obviously Yaakov is upset, and he's like, you are not taking him. Excuse me. Try not to itch my nose in front of you. Okay. So we're going to read the Jasher parallel, chapter 51. And by the way, not a whole lot in Jubilees. Jubilees is very, very brief about this stuff. It kind of just goes right through this whole scene. So we don't really, all the extra stuff is really in Jasher this week. So that's why we're just continuing to read Jasher. And let's see, what did I want to read to? I don't know if I wanted to read the whole thing or not. Let's just, let's see. All right, so we don't need to read the same thing over. So this is Yaakov saying, hey, there's grain in Egypt, go down there. Okay, I want to give you the extra now. Okay. Jasher 51, verse 6. And whilst the sons of Yaakov were going on the road, they repented of what they had done to Joseph. And they spoke to each other, saying, We know that our brother Joseph went down to Egypt, and now we will seek him where we go. And if we find him, we will take him from his master for a ransom, and if not, by force, and we will die for him. So they're repenting. This is what needed to happen. And the sons of Yaakov agreed to this thing and strengthened themselves on account of Joseph to deliver him from the hand of his master. And the sons of Yaakov went to Egypt. And when they came near Egypt, they separated from each other, and they came through the 10 gates of Egypt. And the gatekeepers wrote their names on that day and brought them to Joseph in the evening. And Joseph read the names from the hand of the gatekeepers of the city, and he found that his brethren had entered at the 10 gates of the city. And Joseph at the time commanded that it should be proclaimed throughout the land of Egypt, saying, Go forth, all ye store guards, and close all the corn stores, and let only one remain open, that those who come may purchase from it. So he wanted to consolidate. Instead of having, a granary store in each gate, he's like, close 9 of them down, bring them all to this one, so that everybody that buys, I can put my eyes on them. And all the officers did as Joseph did so at that time, and they closed all the stores and left only one open. And Joseph gave the written names of his brethren to him that was set over the open store, and he said unto him, Whosoever shall come to thee to buy corn, ask his name. And when the men of these names shall come before thee, seize them and send them. And they did so. And when the sons of Yaakov came into the city, they joined together in the city to seek Joseph before they bought themselves corn. So they went in 10 different gates, and then they came together. And they went to I better watch my hands. I get accused of doing hand signs. And they went to the walls of the harlots, and they sought Joseph in the walls of the harlots for 3 days, for they thought that Joseph would come in the walls of the harlots, for Joseph was very comely and well favored. So this is multiple times we're saying that Joseph was just a handsome guy. Not much else to say. And the sons of Yaakov sought Joseph for 3 days, and they could not find him. And the man who was set over the open store sought for the names which Joseph had given him, and he did not find them. And he sent to Joseph, saying, These 3 days have passed, and those men whose names thou didst give unto me have not come. And Joseph sent servants to seek the men in all Egypt and to bring them before Joseph. So the guy at the store that had their names was like, Hey, it's been 3 days, and they haven't bought anything. I haven't seen them, so I don't know what's going on. And Joseph's servants went and came into Egypt and could not find them, and went to Goshen, and they were not there. Then they went to the city of Ramses and could not find them. And Joseph continued to send 16 servants to seek his brothers, and they went and spread themselves in the 4 corners of the city. And 4 of the servants went into the house of the harlots, and they found the 10 men there seeking their brother. And those 4 men took them and brought them before him, and they bowed down to him to the ground. And Joseph was sitting upon his throne in his temple, clothed with princely garments, and upon his head was a large crown of gold, and all the mighty men were sitting around him. So now we're seeing how it came to be that the 10 other brothers came before Joseph. And the sons of Jacob saw Joseph, and his figure and comeliness and dignity of countenance seemed wonderful in their eyes, and they again bowed down to him to the ground. And Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them, but they knew him not. For Joseph was very great in their eyes, therefore they knew him not. And Joseph spoke to them, saying, From whence come ye? And they all answered, said, Thy servants have come from the land of Canaan to buy corn, for the famine prevails throughout the earth. And thy servants heard that there was corn in Egypt, so they have come amongst the other comers to buy corn for their support. And Joseph answered them, saying, If you have come to purchase as you say, why do you come through 10 gates of the city? It can only be that you have come to spy throughout the land. And they all they all together answered Joseph and said, Not so, my lord. We are right. Thy servants are not spies, but we have come to buy corn, for thy servants are all brothers, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. And our father commanded us, saying, When you come to the city, do not enter together at one gate on account of the inhabitants of the land. And Joseph again answered them and said, This is the thing which I spoke unto you. You have come to spy throughout the land, therefore you all came through the 10 gates of the city. You have come to see the nakedness of the land. Surely every one that cometh to buy corn goeth his way, and you are already 3 days in the land, and what do you do in the walls of harlots? in which you have been for these 3 days? Surely spies do like unto these things. And they said unto Joseph, Far be it from our Lord to speak thus, for we are 12 brothers, the sons of our father Jacob in the land of Canaan, the son of Isaac, the son of Yitzchak, the son of Abraham, the Hebrew. And behold, the youngest is with our father this day in the land of Canaan. And one is not, for he was lost from us. And we thought perhaps he might be in this land. So we are seeking him throughout the land, and have come even to the house of harlots to seek him there. And Joseph said unto them, And you have then sought him throughout the earth? So he's like, you've searched everywhere else, right? That there only remained Egypt for you to seek him in? And what also should your brother do in the houses of harlots, although he were in Egypt? Have you not said that you are from the sons of Yitzchak and the sons of Abraham? And what shall the sons of Jacob do then in the houses of harlots? And they said unto him, Because we heard that the Ishmaelites stole him from us, and it was told unto us that they sold him in Egypt, and thy servant, our brother, is very comely and well favored. So we thought he would surely be in the houses of harlots. Therefore thy servants went there to seek him and give ransom for him. And Joseph still answered them, saying, Surely you speak falsely and utter lies to say of yourselves that you are the sons of Abraham. As Pharaoh liveth, you are spies. Therefore have you come to the houses of harlots, that you should not be known. And Joseph said unto them, And now, if you find him, and his master requireth you a great price, right? So Joseph is asking the other brothers, if you find your other brother, and his master require of you a great price, will you give it for him? And they said, It shall be given. And he said unto them, And if his master will not consent to part with him for a great price, what will you do unto him on this account? And they answered him, saying, If he will not give him unto us, we will slay him, and take our brother, and go away. And Joseph said unto them, That is the thing which I have spoken to you. You are spies, for you are come to slay the inhabitants of the land. For we heard that 2 of your brethren smote all the lands of Shechem in the land of Canaan on account of your sister. And now come you to do the like in Egypt on account of your brother. So anyways, just reading through this, it just gives me so much comfort to get the full depth of this. And, you can see here, Joseph is wise. He cornered them and asked them all these questions. And he got to a point where he's like, see, you said it for yourself. You're spies. You came here to kill. We heard about what happened in Shechem, and now you're here to do the same thing. Only hereby shall I know that you are true men, if you will send home one from amongst you to fetch your youngest brother from your father, and to bring him here unto us. And by doing this thing, I will know that you are right. And Joseph called to 70 of his mighty men, and he said unto them, Take these men and bring them into ward. And the mighty men took the 10 men, and they laid hold of them and put them into ward, and they were in ward 3 days. And on the 3rd day, Joseph had brought them out of the ward. And he said unto them, Do this for yourselves, if you be true men, so that you may live. One of your brethren shall be confined in the ward whilst you go, and take home the corn for your household to the land of Canaan, and fetch your youngest brother, and bring him here unto me, that I may know that you are true men when you do this thing. And Joseph went out from them, and came into the chamber, and wept a great weeping, for his pity was excited for them. And he washed his face, and returned to them again, and he took Simeon from them, and ordered him to be bound. But Simeon was not willing to be done so, for he was a very powerful man, and they could not bind him. Remember, it was Simeon and Levi that went into the entire town of Shechem and killed everybody. And we learned through the testament of Levi and other sources that was actually ordained to happen from above. Actually, that was Jubilees, actually. Jubilees and the testament of Levi both confirmed that it was ordained from above that Simeon and Levi go in and kill them all. Because what we learned in Jasher and Jubilees was that the land of Shechem, they were planning on doing all the circumcision, doing the wedding, and then ravaging the other women of the and doing more wickedness to the sons of Abraham, sons of Yaakov, excuse me. So Simeon's like, no, you're not binding me. And Joseph called unto his mighty men, and 70 valiant men came before him with drawn swords in their hands. And the sons of Jacob were terrified at them. And Joseph said unto them, so, it says mighty men. Could these be giants? Maybe. Maybe. This is one of the translations of the giants. The Nephilim is mighty men. It's either giants or mighty men. So it could be. So it's got to be something like that for the sons of Jacob to be terrified, right? Because these are mighty men. And we didn't read through them last week or the week before, but tons of wars in the land of Canaan where these 10 brothers, because Joseph was not there and Benjamin was too young. Or actually, Joseph and Benjamin were too young. And anyways, these 10 brothers, they took over entire towns. So it's going to take a lot for them to be terrified. And Joseph said unto them, Seize this man and confine him in prison until his brethren come to him. And Joseph's valiant men hastened, and they all laid hold of Simeon to bind him. And Simeon gave a loud and terrible shriek, and the cry was heard at a distance. And all the valiant men of Joseph were terrified at the sound of the shriek, and that they fell upon their faces, and they were greatly afraid and fled. And all the men that were with Joseph fled, for they were greatly afraid of their lives. And only Joseph and Manasseh his son remained there. And Manasseh, the son of Joseph, saw the strength of Simeon, and he was exceedingly wroth. He was mad. And Manasseh, the son of Joseph, rose up to Simeon. And Manasseh smote Simeon a heavy blow with his fist against the back of his neck. And Simeon was stilled of his rage. And Manasseh laid hold of Simeon, and he seized him violently, and he bound him and brought him into the house of confinement. And all the sons of Jacob were astonished at the act of the youth. And Simeon said unto his brethren, None of you must say that this is the smiting of an Egyptian, but this is the smiting of the house of my father. Listen, it all comes from the Most High, this power that was given to them. Remember, it started with Abraham. Abraham and, the sum of his servants, was it 318 men? They killed, nine kings and all their armies? Just them? I mean, how does that happen? These men are given special abilities, special powers. We didn't really see much with that with Yitzchak, but Yaakov has it, and all of these men have it. And this is one of the reasons why a lot of people disregard the book of Jasher, is because there's like superhero stuff going on in this book. We'll actually see some of this, but you see Naphtali, he's like the fast one. He runs so fast that he can run on top of corn. I believe it, right? I believe it. If 2 men can go in and kill thousands of people like that, I believe the Most High can do whatever he wants with any man at any time. So there's got to be something with this bloodline. And so Simeon is pointing this out. He said, don't let any of you think that this was a smiting of an Egyptian, right? He's like, because Manasseh, one man was able to do what 70 of those giants, or at least valiant men, couldn't do. He punched him in the back of the neck, calmed down, and bound him. And Simeon was like, but this is the smiting of the house of my father. This is one of the sons of Abraham. And after this, Joseph ordered him to be called, who was set over the storehouse, to fill their sacks with corn as much as they could carry, and to restore every man's money into a sack, and to give them provision for the road. And thus he did unto them. And Joseph commanded them, saying, Take heed, lest you transgress my orders, to bring your brothers as I have told you. And it shall be that when you bring your brother hither unto me, then I will know that you are true men, and ye shall traffic in the land, and I will restore unto you your brother, and ye shall return in peace to your father. And they all answered and said, According as our Lord speaketh, so will we do. And they bowed down to him to the ground. And every man lifted up his corn upon his ass, and they went out to the land of Canaan to their father. And they came to the inn, and Levi spread his sack to give provender to his ass. And when he saw, and behold, his money in full weight, and was still in his sack. So we don't have to read the same things over. Yeah, okay. We don't need... Okay. The rest that we've read before. All right, so let's go back to the Torah in Bereshit, Genesis 43, verse 1. Let me take a quick sip, and I want to make sure the chat is still going well. Yeah, this is going to be a long one. There's so much to read. Here we are, an hour and a half in two chapters. How's this going? Good. Okay, good. Wow, look at that. Yep. Okay. Rak Chazak, Eric Padgett said. This is like the Hebrew war call. Be strong and courageous. Be strong and courageous. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. I think Hollywood took a lot of their stories of the Marvel and DC, whatever that. I think they got it from this book. I'm going to be honest with you. I really, really do. And you see here, so Cartoon says Naphtali was the Flash, Yaakov was regular Legolas, Judah had a scream that could bring down walls, yeah, and someone could leap tall parapets to the tune of several stories high. I believe it. I really, really believe it. I really do. I really do. What's going on Lost Finding the Truth? Good to see you. Check out his channel. I think he sent me a video, and I think I enjoyed it. Anyways, okay, so let's get back into it, just because I'd love to sit here and chat, but we've got probably another hour's worth, and that'll make this a 2.5 hour 2.5 hour Torah portion. So, anyways, a lot of people do dismiss this book. It's tradition to do so. A lot of the same people that deny this book also deny Enoch and Jubilees and whatnot. But there are a lot of people that believe in Enoch and Jubilees and the Apocrypha, and they're like, all that, but not Jasher, which Jasher actually has some of the most scriptural proof. You know, it's written in Joshua 10. Are these things not written in the book of Jasher? Yashar means the book of the upright. It's also in, I think, 2 Samuel as well. Are these things not written in the book of Jasher? It's like, okay. And for those of you, I may actually just re-upload this video, so just so it's, I might get Dr. Ken Johnson's approval, but he's spent a long time researching this book, and he thoroughly believes that the book, the copy of Jasher that we have, is legitimate. So take a look at that if you're interested in the authenticity of this. But like with all things, I just say put it to the test, read it, and prove it for yourselves. And if you find things like this to be too incredible, like we'll see here in a little bit, Judah taking a huge stone and throwing it up, all way up in the air and grabbing it and crushing it, then you don't believe this book. It's not going to bother me. I'm going to love you the same. But it's been put on my heart to go through these Torah portions and give you all the meat. And there's a ton. And Yashar. So let's keep going. So Genesis 43:1, and the famine was sore in the land, and it came to pass, when they had eaten up the grain which they had brought out of Mitzrayim, their father said unto them, Go again and buy us a little food. And Yehuda, Judah, spoke unto him, saying, The man did solemnly protest unto us, saying, Ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. If you will send our brother with us, we will go down and buy your food. But if you will not send him, we will not go down. For the man said unto us, Ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. And Yashrael said, Wherefore dealt ye so ill with me, as to tell the man whether ye had a brother? So, he's like, Yashrael, this is Israel, so Jacob. He's like, Why did you even tell him you had another brother? Like, what are you doing? And they said, The man asked us straightly of our state and of our kindred, saying, Is your father yet alive? Have ye another brother? And we told him, according to the tenor of these words, we could we certainly know that he would say, Bring your brother down. And so here you see a passage where they're telling us information that we didn't get to see. So you can just see right here from this very verse that not everything, not every single detail is in here. And the Most High put what was needed in these books. And again, he for those that wanted to search him earnestly, those that be wise, those that have a desire to seek him with all their heart, soul, and mind. A lot of us want to know everything, and so he hit little here, little there, little. So, anyways, and Yehuda said unto Yashrael, his father, Send the lad with me, and we will arise and go, that we may live and not die, both we and you, and also our little ones. I will be surety. So, he's like I will be bond for him. I will be confirmation. I will be security. I will be security for him. Of my hands shall you require him. If I bring him not unto you and set him before you, then let me bear the blame forever. For except we had lingered, surely now we had returned the second time. And we'll, but what he means by this is, we'll read this in Jasher here in a bit. But it took them about a year and 2 months to go through all that grain. So he's saying, for except we had lingered, he's like, wasting all this time, but surely now we had returned the second time. So he's like, we could have already gone there and come back. Their father Yisrael said unto them, if it must be so now, do this. Take the best fruits in the land in your vessels, and carry down the manna present, a little balm, and a little honey, spices, and myrrh, nuts, and almonds. And take double money in your hand, and the money that was brought again into the mouth of your sacks, carried again in your hand, perchance it was an oversight. So remember, they bought the grain, they came back home, and all their money and the grain was in their sacks. So he's like, take that money and more money, in case it was an oversight, in case it was an accident. Take also your brother, and arise, go again unto the man, and El Shaddai give you mercy before the man, that he may send away your other brother and Benjamin. If I be bereaved of my children, I am bereaved. So it took the whole house being out of food and facing starvation for Yaakov to be like, all right, this is Yah's will. If I'm bereaved of my children, I'm bereaved. And the men took that present, and they took double money in their hand, and Benjamin, and rose up and went down to Mitzrayim, and stood before Yosef. And when Yosef saw Benjamin with them, he said to the ruler of his house, bring these men home, slay, and make ready, for these men shall dine with me at noon. And the man did as Yosef bade, and the man brought the men into Yosef's house. And the men were afraid, because they were brought into Yosef's house, and they said, because of the money that was returned in our sacks at the first time we are brought in, that he may seek occasion against us and fall upon us, and take us for bondmen and our asses. And they came near the steward of Joseph's house, and they communed with him at the door of the house, and said, O sir, we came indeed down at the first time to buy food. And it came to pass, when we came to the inn, that we opened our sacks, and behold, every man's money was in the mouth of his sack. Our money was in full weight, and we have brought it again in our hand. And other money have we brought down in our hands to buy food. We cannot tell who put our money in our sacks. And he said, Peace be to you. Fear not. Your Elohim and the Elohim of your father has given you treasure in your sacks. I had your money. And he brought Shimon out unto them. Because remember, he was in prison while they went back to Canaan. And the man brought the men into Joseph's house and gave them water. And they washed their feet, and he gave their asses provender. This is kind of interesting, right before he's about to dine with dine with Yosef, who is a foreshadow of Messiah. They're getting ready to down have a feast with him, washing feet. And it's not saying here Joseph doesn't wash their feet. Obviously, they would know something was wrong if, the second in command would start washing his feet. So he didn't go there, but, this is probably nothing, but I just thought it was interesting. And they made ready the present against Yosef came at noon, for they heard that they should eat bread there. And when Yosef came home, they brought him the present which was in their hand into the house, and bowed themselves to him to the earth. Remember, the honey, the myrrh, the almonds, the stuff they brought from Canaan. And he asked them of their welfare, and said, Is your father well? The old man of whom you spoke, is he alive? And they answered, Your servant, our father, is in good health. He is yet alive. And they bowed down their heads and made obeisance. Here is another fulfillment of those dreams, right? Multiple fulfillments. And he lifted up his eyes and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son, and said, Is this your younger brother, of whom you spoke unto me? And he said, Elohim, be gracious unto you, my son. And Yosef made haste, for his heart did yearn upon his brother, and he sought where to weep, and he entered into his chamber and wept there. I don't see anything wrong with weeping, brothers and sisters. And he washed his face and went out and refrained himself and said, Set on bread. And they set on for him by himself, and for them by themselves, and for the Mitzrayim, which did eat with him by themselves, because the Mitzrayim might not eat bread with the Ivrim, for that is an abomination unto the Mitzrayim. And they sat before him, the firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his youth. And the men marveled at one another. And they marveled at one another. They were like astonished. They're like, how did he know the order of our birth? Right? We'll actually get that in Jasher. And that's, again, just little things of why I love this. And he took, and we'll find out how Joseph told them that he knew this. And he took and sent messes unto them from before him, but Benjamin's mess was 5 times so as much as any of theirs, and they drank and were merry with him. So, end of chapter 43. So let's look at Jasher, and let's take a look. How are we doing on time? All right, so yeah, okay. Okay, let me just take a quick. I thought I had written down what verse to start in. I'm sorry for having to scroll for a second. Yeah, so this is Jasher 52:9. Yaakov heard the words of his sons, children, and he wept with a great weeping. It's because here, watch. I'm sorry. Verse 8. It came to pass, after their corn was finished, the whole household of Yaakov was pinched with hunger. And all the infants of the sons of Yaakov came together, and they approached Yaakov, and they all surrounded him. And they said unto him, give us bread, and wherefore shall we perish through the hunger in thy presence? So like we're hungry. And Yaakov heard the words of his sons' children, and he wept a great weeping, and his pity was roused for them. And Yaakov called on his sons, and they all came and sat before him. So that's when he was ready to send them off. Let's see. Okay, so starting at verse 21, this is Judah was basically, giving him like, hey, this is, let us go. We'll take care of this. So starting at verse 21, for how will Yahweh's kindness to our ancestors be manifested to thee when thou sayest that the king of Egypt will take away thy son? As Yahweh liveth, I will not leave him until I bring him and place him before thee. But pray for us unto Yahweh, that he may deal kindly with us, to cause us to be received favorably and kindly before the king of Egypt and his men. For had we not delayed, surely now we have returned a second time with thy son. And Yaakov said unto his sons, I trust in Yahweh Elohim, that he may deliver you and give you favor in the sight of the king of Egypt and in the sight of all his men. Now therefore rise up and go to the man, and take for him in your hands a present from which can be obtained in the land, and bring it before him, and may El Shaddai give you mercy before him, that he may send Benjamin and Simeon your brother with you. And all the men rose up, and they took their brother Benjamin, and they took in their hands a large present of the best of the land, and they also took a double portion of silver. Here we go. Here. And Yaakov strictly commanded his sons concerning Benjamin, saying, take heed of him in the way which you are going, and do not separate yourselves from him in the road, neither in Egypt. And Yaakov rose up from his sons, and spread forth his hands, and he prayed unto Yahweh on account of his sons, saying, O Yahweh Eloheinu, of heaven and earth, remember thy covenant with our father Avraham, remember it with my father Yitzchak, and deal kindly with my sons, and deliver them not into the hands of the king of Egypt. Do it, I pray thee, O Elohim, for the sake of thy mercies, and redeem all my children, and rescue them from Egyptian power, and send them their 2 brothers. And all the wives of the sons of Yaakov and their children lifted up their eyes to heaven, and they all wept before Yahweh, and cried unto him to deliver their fathers from the hand of the king of Egypt. And Yaakov wrote a record to the king of Egypt, and gave it into the hand of Yehudah, and into the hands of his sons for the king of Egypt, saying, so Yaakov wrote a record, so a letter, right? So this is the letter. From thy servant Yaakov, son of Yitzchak, son of Avraham, the Hebrew, the prince of Elohim, to the powerful and wise king, the revealer of secrets, king of Egypt, greeting. Be it known to my lord, the king of Egypt, the famine was sore upon us in the land of Canaan, and I sent my sons to thee to buy us little food from thee for our support. For my sons surrounded me, and I, being very old, cannot see with my eyes, for my eyes have become very heavy through age, as well as with daily weeping for my son, for Joseph, who was lost from before me. And I commanded my sons that they should not enter the gates of the city when they came to Egypt on account of the inhabitants of the land. And I also commanded them to go about Egypt to seek for my son Joseph. Perhaps they might find him there, and they did so. And thou didst consider them as spies of the land. Have we not heard concerning thee that thou didst interpret Pharaoh's dream, and didst speak truly unto him? How then dost thou know in thy wisdom? How dost thou not know in thy wisdom whether my sons are spies or not? So he's like, you're wise. How do you not know that this is the truth, that they're not spies? Now therefore, my lord and king, behold, I have sent my son before thee, as thou didst speak unto my sons. I beseech thee to put thy eyes upon him until he is returned to me in peace with his brethren. For thou dost not know, or hast thou not heard? So have you not heard? Do you not know? Have you not heard that which our Elohim did unto Pharaoh when he took my mother Sarah, and what he did unto Abimelech, the king of the Philistines, on account of her? And also what our father Abraham did unto the 9 kings of Elam, right? Remember we were talking about this earlier. And how he smote them all with a few men that were with him. And also what my 2 sons, Simeon and Levi, did unto the 8 cities of the Amorites, and how they destroyed them on account of their sister Dinah. And also on account of their brother Benjamin, they consoled themselves for the loss of his brother Joseph. What will they then do for him when they see the hand of any people prevailing over them for his sake? Dost thou not know, O king of Egypt, that the power of Elohim is with us, and that also Elohim ever heareth our prayers and forsaketh us not all the days? And when my sons told me of thy dealings with them, I called not unto Yahuwah on account of thee, for then thou wouldst have perished with thy men before my son Benjamin came before thee. But I thought that as Simeon my son was in thy house, perhaps thou mightest deal kindly with him. Therefore I did not this thing unto thee. Now therefore, behold, Benjamin my son cometh unto thee with my sons. Take heed of him, and put thy eyes upon him, and then will Elohim place his eyes over thee and throughout thy kingdom. Now I have told thee all that is in my heart, and behold, my sons are coming to thee with their brother. Examine the face of the whole of the earth for their sake, and send them back in peace with their brethren. And Yaakov gave the record to his sons in the care of Yehuda to give it unto the king of Egypt. So, just a little bit in 53, and we'll move on to 44, and then we're going to finish up. Everybody still okay here? Why is this going all the way down? Okay. Okay, so Book of Jasher, chapter 53, verse 1. And the sons of Yaakov rose up and took Benjamin, and the whole, we're going to read till verse 22. And the whole of the presents, and they went and came into Egypt and stood before Joseph. And Joseph beheld his brother Benjamin with them, and he saluted them, and these men came to Joseph's house. And Joseph commanded the superintendent of his house to give his brethren to eat, and he did so unto them. And at noon time Joseph sent for the men to come before him with Benjamin. And the men told the superintendent of Joseph's house concerning the silver that was returned in their sacks. And he said unto them, It will be well with you, fear not. And he brought their brother Simeon unto them. And Simeon said unto his brethren, The Lord of the Egyptians has acted very kindly unto me. He did not keep me bound, so he didn't keep him in prison, as you saw with your eyes. For when you went out from the city, he let me free and dealt kindly with me in his house. And Yehuda took Benjamin by the hand, and they came before Joseph, and they bowed down to him to the ground. And the men gave the present unto Joseph, and they all sat before him. And Joseph said unto him, Is it well with you? Is it well with your children? Is it well with your aged father? And they said, It is well. And Yehuda took the record which Jacob had sent and gave it into the hand of Joseph. And Joseph read the letter and knew his father's writing. And he wished to weep. And he went into an inner room and he wept with a great weeping. And he went out. I mean, can you imagine? Can you imagine being estranged from your father for so many years? Him thinking that you're dead. Still thinking that you're dead. And he's writing you a letter, not knowing it's you. Oh, man. And he lifted up his eyes and beheld his brother Benjamin, and he said, Is this your brother of whom you spoke unto me? And Benjamin approached of Joseph, and Joseph placed his hand upon his head and said unto him, May Elohim be gracious unto thee, my son. And when Joseph saw his brother, the son of his mother, he again wished to weep, and he entered the chamber, and he wept there. And he washed his face and went out and refrained from weeping. And he said, prepare food. And this is how, remember I was telling you that we would find out in Jasher why, how he knew the brothers' orders without them being like, how do you know this? So listen to this. And Yosef had a cup from which he drank, and it was of silver beautifully inlaid with onyx stones and bdellium. And Yosef struck the cup in the side of his brethren whilst they were sitting to eat with them. So, ding. And Yosef said unto the men, I know by this cup that Reuben, the firstborn, Simeon and Levi and Yehuda, Issachar and Zebulun are children from one mother. Seat yourselves to eat according to your births. So basically, he's telling them that he was doing divination by the cup. And he also placed the others according to their births. And he said, I know that this, your youngest brother, has no brother. And I, like him, have no brother. And he shall therefore sit down to eat with me. And Benjamin went up before Yosef and sat upon the throne. And the men beheld the acts of Yosef, and they were astonished at them. And the men ate and drank at that time with Yosef. And he then gave presents unto them, and Yosef gave one gift unto Benjamin, and Manasseh and Ephraim saw the acts of their father, and they also gave presents unto him. And Osnath gave him one present, and they were 5 presents in the hand of Benjamin. And Yosef brought them out wine to drink, and they would not drink. And they said, from the day on which Yosef was lost, we have not drunk wine, nor eaten any delicacies. So they're like, no, we've been in mourning and repentance, or just in mourning for our brother, which has been lost, and we haven't drunk any wine, nor eaten any delicate thing since then. And Yosef swore unto them, and he pressed them hard, and they drank plentifully with him on that day. And Yosef afterward turned to his brother Benjamin to speak with him. And Benjamin was still sitting upon the throne before Yosef. And Yosef said unto him, hast thou begotten any children? And he said, thy servant has 10 sons. And these are their names, Bela, Becher, Ashbal, Gera, Naaman, Achi, Rosh, Mupim, Chupim, and Ord. And I call their names after my brother, whom I have not seen. And he ordered them to bring before him his map. Listen to this. This is interesting. And he ordered them to bring before him his map of the stars, whereby Yosef knew all the times. And Yosef said unto Benjamin, I have heard that the Hebrews are acquainted with all wisdom. Dost thou know anything of this? So he's learning wisdom by the stars, and we know that this has got to be somewhat, not divination, but somewhat, except not like astrology, but astronomy. Possibly the same kind of astronomy that the 3 wise men knew about the birth of Messiah, right? It's Matthew 2. Read it for yourself. Same thing happened there. So there's probably a difference between, divination and astrology rather than the knowledge of the stars, which, the children of the Most High knew, the children of Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. They knew how to read the stars without divination in a proper way. And, that makes me think of what many of us saw happen in 2017, September 23rd, 2017. A woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet and a crown of 12 stars above her head, and she being with child cried and pain to give birth. We saw it. That was a perfect alignment, perfect fulfillment of Revelation 12, verses 1 through 2. And Benjamin said, so Yosef asks him, and do you know how to read the stars? And Benjamin said, thy servant is knowing also in all the wisdom which my father taught me. And Yosef said unto Benjamin, look now at this instrument, and understand where thy brother Yosef is in Egypt, who you said went down to Egypt. So he basically gave Yosef the map of the stars and an instrument and Yosef said, here, tell me where Yosef is. And Benjamin beheld that instrument with the map of the stars of heaven, and he was wise, and looked therein to know where his brother was. And Benjamin divided the whole land of Egypt into 4 divisions. And he found that he who was sitting upon the throne before him was his brother Yosef. And Benjamin wondered greatly. And when Yosef saw that his brother Benjamin was so much astonished, he said unto Benjamin, what hast thou seen? And why art thou astonished? And Benjamin said unto Yosef, I can see by this that Yosef my brother sitteth here with me upon the throne. And Yosef said unto him, I am Yosef, thy brother. Reveal not this thing unto thy brethren. Behold, I will send thee with them when they go away, and I will command them to be brought back again into the city, and I will take thee away from them. And if they dare their lives and fight for thee, then shall I know that they have repented of what they did unto me, and I will make myself known to them. And if they forsake thee when I take thee, then shalt thou remain with me, and I will wrangle with them, and they shall go away, and I will not become known to them. So I encourage you to read the rest of this. There's some really good information here, and actually the next few chapters, it's a pretty wild story. Again, I believe it, but if we read all that, this would be a 3.5 hour Torah portion. So, in any case, so let's get to the last chapter, Bereshit, Genesis 44. Okay. I'm just looking at my notes. Okay, so we're going to finish chapter 44. We go till verse 17, and then we're going to read about 5 verses in Jasher, and we are finished for the day. I got a few announcements, and then we'll end this study. So, and he commanded the steward of his house, saying, "Fill the men's sacks with food as much as they can carry, and put every man's money in his sack's mouth." So this is them returning back for the second time. "And put my cup, the silver cup, in the sack's mouth of the youngest, and his grain money." And he did according to the word that Joseph had spoken. As soon as the morning was light, the men were sent away, they and their asses. And when they were gone out of the city, and not yet afar off, Joseph said unto his steward, "Up, follow after the men. And when you do overtake them, say unto them, Wherefore have you rewarded evil for good? Is not this it in which my Lord drinks, and whereby indeed he divines?" So here, this confirms Jasher, because we don't get the information in Genesis that he divines with the cup. Can you see how the Ruach does this line upon line, here a little, there a little? We get that from Isaiah 28. But, do you see this? I mean, are you with me? In Genesis, we just read this portion, and nowhere was it found that he divines by that silver cup. But we found it in Jasher. "Ye have done evil in so doing." And he overtook them, and he spoke unto them these same words. And they said unto him, "Wherefore says my Lord these words? Far be it that your servants should do according to this." So we're not thieves. "Behold, the money which we found in our sacks' mouths we brought again unto you out of the land of Canaan. Then should we steal out of your Lord's house silver or gold?" Because, all the amount of, money that they brought was probably worth way more than this little cup. So we paid you the money, and somehow it came back in our sacks. And we were honest enough to bring all that back and be like, "Hey, here it was." So why would you think they would steal the cup? "With whomsoever of your servants it be found, both let him die, and we also will be my Lord's bondmen." So they're like, but they knew they're like, "We're not guilty. So, if you find it, then we'll be your servants." And he said, "Now also let it be according to your words." So he's like, "What you just said? That's what's going to happen. He with whom it is found shall be my servant, and ye shall be blameless." Oh, so he changed it a little bit. Sorry. So they said, "We'll all be your servants," right? He's right. So yeah. So he says, "So whoever it's found with, let him die, and then we will be your servants." And he said, "No. He who is found shall be my servant, and ye shall all be blameless." And you just go out your way. Then they speedily took down every man his sack to the ground, and opened every man his sack. And he searched, and began at the eldest, and left at the youngest, and the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. And they rent their clothes, and laded every man his ass, and returned to the city. And Yehudah and his brethren came to Joseph's house, for he was yet there, and they fell before him on the ground. Another fulfillment, right? And Joseph said unto them, "What is this deed that ye have done? Know ye not that such a man as I can certainly divine?" And Yehudah said, "What shall we say unto my Lord? What shall we speak? Or how shall we clear ourselves? Elohim has found out the iniquity of your servants. Behold, we are my Lord's servants, both we and he also with whom the cup is found." And he said, "Far be it that I should do so. But the man in whose hand the cup is found, he shall be my servant. And as for you, get you up in peace unto your father. And this ends the Torah portion. But let's just finish up with just a few verses. Jasher 53, 23 through 27. At that time, Yosef commanded his officer to fill their sacks with... Okay, we already know that. We know that. Oh, well, actually, no, there's not much extra here. Just this little part in verse 27. And they hastened, and each man brought down his sack from his ass. So this is when they were stopped, and they're like, one of you stole this cup. Let me see all your stuff. And they looked in their bags, and the cup was found in Benjamin's bag. And they all tore their garments, and they returned to the city. And they smote Benjamin in the road, continually smiting him until they came to the city, and they stood before Yosef. So they're like smacking him like idiots, or no. I shouldn't even say a word like that. Sorry. Forgive me. I know some of you do this with your children, so sorry. He's like, silly. They're like hitting him. They're like, why'd you do this? Like, what is wrong with you? Boom, boom, boom. So anyways, that's where we'll end. And actually, if you want to read ahead, please do. I think it's 53, 54, which actually, today is Wednesday. We'll be doing the Torah portion, the next one in 2 days, on Friday night after the Isaiah study. So in 2 days, we'll read some of this. But this is an amazing scene of what happens next. But I won't spoil it. So anyways, if you want to read ahead, I think it's 53, 54, and just 53 and 54. Crazy, crazy stuff. So anyways, I pray that this study was a blessing to you. And I pray that, either the stuff you already knew was confirmed. Maybe you learned some new things. Maybe you have some things to test out. Many of you are still questioning books like Jasher and Jubilees and all those. And what we did read from today was the CEPHER. Actually, let me get out of this mode. Yeah, I'll just keep it here. Reading from the CEPHER version, the CEPHER has the restored names of the Father, YHWH, and the true Messiah, the Son, YHWH, and restored names of other names that we see all throughout, cities, lands, those type of things. And I think, even more importantly, it has the restored books included, all in one book. You've got books like Jubilees, Enoch, Jasher, Tobit, all the Apocrypha that was removed. And, a lot of people have questions about this, and, they ask me if this is perfect. I've said on many times that I don't believe that any English translation is perfect, because you lose some of the meaning going from the Hebrew to the English. And for more information on that, you can check out Dr. Pigeon's site, CEPHER, on YouTube. Also, Alan Horvath. Alan Horvath is probably the number one destination for information on the true meanings using the Paleo Hebrew, actually the ancient Aramaic Hebrew. So anyways, I encourage this. It is a little bit pricey, so if you're tight on money, you can read all this stuff free online. All you gotta do is search Jasher, and it'll come up. You can search Jubilees, you can search to Esdras, any of these books. Or if you like the electronic version, you can get the app for I think like $28 or $30. I don't know. I can't remember exactly how much, but I love that. You can always quick reference, has a really good search tool, but I really enjoy the work from what CEPHER has done. So anyways, this is the book that we read from today. And this is the book that we typically read from. As you know, those of you that follow the Isaiah study, we do cross-reference with other stuff like the other books I recommend is the... Actually, let me turn this now. Hang on. Yeah, so I like the Brenton Septuagint with the Apocrypha. This is the Greek version. This is called the Septuagint. It means the 70, and there's a lot of stuff that's in this that was cut out in the Masoretic. Interesting stuff. And I also like the scriptures, the ISR. This is the TS 2009. So, anyways, just some of the books I recommend. Also, the Hebrew Gospel of Matthew. And, I haven't gotten into this as much as I'd like to lately, but a translation of the Dead Sea Scrolls. So, awesome stuff. And, what a great time to be alive in these days where, hands down, we're in a time like no other. If you have a desire to search out the whole word and the whole truth, there's no other time like now. None. Truly, there's some pitiful things that come with this time. Like, all the details, like fluoride in the water and the vaccines and the chemtrails and all that kind of stuff. But you know what? Whatever. This is a time that if you're hungry for the word, you can dine on some filet mignon at any time you want to. So what an amazing time to be alive in these days. And, speaking about, we were talking about prepping because, Yosef, we were talking about Yosef and prepping. What if the power goes out one day? What if the internet goes down one day? What if we have to submit to the beast system to get back on the internet or something? I don't know about you, but I want to have physical copies of all this stuff if something does go down, because then it's like we're back to whatever. We're back to whatever, the rest of history. So that's why I do recommend. And the CEPHER is a little pricey, but rightly so. It's but if you do want a little discount, you can use code PoTV for a 10% discount. Also, I just saw it from Eric Paget. A little shout out to the Natsarim chat. It's Discord. You can check that out. And this is basically they're chatting 24/7, from what I understand. Thanks, Amber. Thank you, sister. They chat all day long. So if you're looking for starving for fellowship, great place to do it. And Eric put a link in there. Actually, let me go back to screen sharing. You can see it. And right here, Eric Paget, if anyone is looking for fellowship and looking for encouragement throughout your day, you can join the PoTV family at such and such, where the fellowship is continuing all day, every day. Every day. Anyways, so there's that. And again, we're still working on the Zoom studies. We'll have a couple nights. So far, what we've got is I've got a brother. I've got a brother doing afternoon. We don't have an exact time. Afternoons on Saturday, Shabbat. We have a Torah portion, another Torah study, not Torah portions, but really just Torah studies. Monday nights, I think 8 p.m. Central Standard. We're going to have a Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Central Standard. That'll be just a normal study. And I'm working on the Spanish speaking Zoom study. I've got a brother, Celio Ramos. He is going to be leading those that maybe Spanish is your first language and you'd prefer to do studies in Spanish. Maybe it's a little easier for you to comprehend or understand. So that's going to be available. We don't have an exact day yet, and I'm still working with a sister to find out when a fellowship for sisters will be available as well too. So working on it. Just wanted to get it all set so that it's not a mess when we get started. So I'll continue to update you on that. I could use your prayers. One of my tribulations, it's a small thing, but I feel like the more and more truth that I put forth on this channel and listen to the Ruach, I seem to get persecution in my body. And a lot of you know, back in the spring, I was bedridden for almost a month. Back in October and November, I was bedridden for like another 2-3 weeks. And I'm getting the symptoms back now again. So I could really use some prayers. I really believe that forces of darkness may be praying against me or doing something. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. So I've got to think that this is an attack on me, and I could use your prayers. So I would appreciate it, and because my body hurts. So, anyways, what else did I want to say? What else? Yeah, I will do the rest of the announcements on Friday night with the Isaiah stream. So, anyways, I'm sorry, I'm saying a lot because I'm trying to think of. I knew there was something else I wanted to say, but I can't think about it. I do see Sister Jessica Areanis in here at the Crossing Over. Check her out. She, I think she does a weekly. She does a weekly show with Dr. Pigeon, and go ahead and check them out. Great place to learn wisdom. We don't agree on everything, but we agree on most things, and I think we find that pretty common in this community, that we agree on like 97% of stuff. And there's usually a few little things here and there that we may not agree on, but excellent place to also get your spiritual meat as well. So any case, I wanted to maybe play a look at Jessica's laughing at me because my attempt at Spanish. Areanes. Sorry. Okay, let me I'm going to play a song from Alan Horvath to end this. But before that, I'm going to do a prayer, and then we'll do the song. So let's bow our hearts. Heavenly Father, Yahuwah Most High, we just do come before you in Yahusha's name, your word, our King of Kings. And we're just so grateful and thankful in these last days to be called out of our former lives. And truly the transformations that you've given a lot of us are just so miraculous. And we just thank you, and we just bless you, because the grace and mercy and long suffering that you had with us is honestly worth more than anything that we can attain in this world. We thank you for opening our eyes to the truth of your whole word, the Torah, and just thank you for continuing to open our eyes and ears that we may behold the wondrous things out of your Torah. We bless you. We honor you. We send hallelujahs to you amidst our afflictions and trials, and to know that some of these may be just for refinement. And I just pray that not that you take us out of these tribulations, but that you make us stronger so that we can overcome by your Ruach. We love you. We bless you. Amen. So let me find this. Let's see, what video are we going to do from Alan? Hey, I don't think I have a whole lot. I may have to just play Kingdom Come again. I didn't prepare well enough. Give me just a second. Hang on. Give me just a second here. We're going to play a song from Alan Horvath, and we will finish this up. So we can either do we're gonna do Get Satisfied. It's my second favorite song from Alan. No, we'll just do Kingdom Come again, actually. I love that song. We're just doing Kingdom Come. Okay, here we go.
I hear the farmers crying, kingdom come. I see the horrifying things we've done. I want to go way down by the end of the road, all the way to Kingdom Come. Father in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy will be done on earth, oh hear me pray. Give us this day Let our needs get met along the way. And most of all I pray you, let your kingdom come. Yeah, kingdom come. Whoa. All our brightest dreams are shadowed by the darkness of the night. I keep watching the horizon for the slightest hint of light. Give us this day, give us this day. Let your kingdom come. Whoa. It's an ancient story that still gets told to those who hear and those who don't, by prophets and trees and things out of the blue. But once that cry has reached your ears, your heart gets filled by what you hear, and what you hear is just the sound